Hello Flight Simmers, I'm Adam. Welcome to P3D and the final-ish video for the freeware TrueWorth add-on that we're going to create for P3D, or FSX this also works in. And we're going to create the Autogen basically. So there's two programs we're going to be using, OrthoXP P3D and Scene Pro, or Scenery Processor, Scene Proc, whatever people call it. These are the two programs. We've set them up already in the previous video. The link is down in that first video down below in the description box to install it. Just basically unpack it, both of them, and you'll notice inside there's a folder called Scene Proc Configs with a default. Now what you need to do is jump in my Discord and you need to download. I've put a default Scene Proc profile in my Discord. This one is what you need to use, the one in my Discord, and overwrite this one. It contains all the information from this one, but it also contains loads more of information. So it's essential you get that, otherwise you won't get the same results as you see in this video. Now, first off, I want to kind of go through a little bit about what, so the Autogen is what we're creating, but I want to talk a little bit about Autogen and how it's created, just to give you a better understanding and the process that we're about to do. And we're going to create the Autogen, but you need to understand how Autogen is created and understand a little bit more rather than just sort of run the program and, you know, click this, because I just want you to be able to troubleshoot a few things and just understand fully what you're doing, so you know what you're doing rather than just going, I'm following what he says and I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, so Autogen, buildings and trees, that's what we're defining as Autogen, is placed into the simulator in two different ways, either with an algorithmic process automation or hand placed. Now the difference between the two, and this, you know, appears both in the default sim and third-party payware add-ons as well. The default automatic algorithmic way of laying in Autogen buildings and trees is done so it goes right. It looks at what you're loading into at the time you load into your sim, and it goes, let's look at the vector data. This is what the user needs to see, and it just throws the stuff in like on the spot, and it kind of stitches it to the landscape. Doesn't touch the airports, but just stitches it to the landscape, and that's that. And obviously there's add-ons that you can buy, like Buildings HD, Terraflora. They do the same thing, but they're just better quality. Now the scenery library is a layer system, so when one item sits on top of another, it has a priority. And when you put photoreal in the sim and go into that area, the simulator goes, right, we've got a texture, massive texture landscape, that is the add-on for this area, and the default trees and buildings don't poke through because those were created in an automated way, and you've already got an add-on in your sim for that, the photoreal. Unfortunately, it's a flat texture. Hand-placed items, on the other hand, will actually show through photoreal. You'll notice if you use Mega Scenery Earth's photoreal maps for the USA, certain cities you'll see buildings or maybe the odd sort of point of interest landmark. Those have been hand-placed by either Lockheed Martin or a scenery developer. If you get like Seattle X, there's hundreds of buildings that are hand-placed, created, which now will sit on top of photoreal, because hand-placed items will take a priority over the photoreal, and actually you'll see them in there. So what we need to do to put Autogen onto photoreal is hand place buildings and trees so they show through the photoreal. That can be laborious. Now the island we created has over 50,000 hand-placed items of buildings and trees, and unless you want to get into modeling and texturing and binding the two and then pinpointing their location using coordinates by hand placing things in, like we need to find a different way of doing this. Luckily, a very smart man back in like 2012 or whatever it was came up with a program that does exactly that. It uses like Python-like scripting language to hand place Autogen into your sim in an automated way. So you get Autogen on top of photoreal because the program is hand placing it on based off coordinates and based off scripting language you give it. And this program I'm talking about is called ScreenProc, which I'll run now. It's a brilliant program, but like I said, it's script based. So whatever information you feed in this window here is what it's going to sort of process and then spit out the other end. So if whatever data you put in is all it's got to work with, it doesn't have like a AI learning to go, oh, but and you want this, you know, it only does what it's told. So your Autogen is only ever going to be as good as the information you give it. And as you can imagine, if you go to Japan, the buildings are of a certain architecture. There's only certain trees that you'll find in Japan. There's Autogen very specific to that part of the world. And Lockheed Martin have created default assets of Autogen to specific regions of the world and given them an exacting file name. So as you can imagine, there's not like an Autogen pack that you could just put in anywhere, because not only is it based off coordinates, but also they're region specific assets. So you kind of have to know what you're looking for in order to feed information into this program. Now, luckily for us, luckily for you guys, I've come up with a script that you can just run and it will give you a generalistic average all over the world. It's not exact, and you know, don't forget it doesn't have region specific stuff in there, but it will put trees and buildings in your sim on top of the photoreal anywhere in the world. It will have varying levels of degree of success, A, based on the data you put in, and B, based on where you are in the world. Really what we should be doing is writing a script specific to a location and running with that, and that will yield the best results. Now when I say data, I mean we need like asset data of particular buildings, particular tree placements, you know, like here is a forest, there is a river, here is a lot of industrial buildings, here is a housing estate. Now there is payware ways of getting this information, but there's also a freeware way. The best freeware way is called OpenStreetMap, and a lot of scenery developers use OpenStreetMap to create payware products, I will say. But basically OpenStreetMap, you can literally just Google it and click on it and you'll come to this map, not this specific map, this is our island, but you'll come to this map here in the world. And basically all it is kind of like, you know, do you remember when Google went around with a camera attached to a car and photographed the world, you know, and now you can walk around the world from your PC? Like, it's basically that. People have gone out into the world, like you and me type of people, and they've taken their mobiles, they've taken their cameras, and they've said, right, this area is a forest, okay, this area's got an airport, this area's got a particular load of houses on it, this area's got a church, primary school, and basically mapped the world. Now, as you can imagine, because it's just, this is people putting their own time and effort in, not getting paid. This is free data. It's an open source project. It's going to have varying levels of degree of quality, you know. So you go to New York, you go to Los Angeles, there's loads of people who have done it, there's loads of data, okay, you'll get good results. You go out into the middle of nowhere, right, and there's no data. So if we just like go down, look at this island, I am pretty sure is covered in more forest than is being displayed here. But if I was to map this, the only forest I'd see is these tiny green squares. The rest of it would not have trees. Now, maybe this island doesn't have trees, but I really don't think so, given the sort of area that we're in. I chose this island because it has a good amount of data, and it's really important that you look at your data first before you go in. Now, this scenery processor program is really good. Remember, there's hundreds of different types of buildings and trees, so it all sort of aspects here. I probably have got loads of data here available to me, but the script I wrote is only going to show you a little bit of it, you know. So if you want to get all of it in, you have to write your own script at the end of the day. But again, this is supposed to be an easy step process for you guys to master. Basically, all you have to do is load up your scripts in here and click run, and you know, point this program to, here's the data we've collected for this area, here's the scripts, process it, thank you very much for the Autogen files, and you pop them in your add-on. That's the whole process. It's very simple, but I'm trying to give you a bit more clarity on the process so you understand it a bit better. So Autogen files are sourced from OpenStreetMap data, which has been collected by, you know, Joe Blow down the road. And, you know, it's not going to be exact, but basically open up this map and just have a look at what you're going to be collecting. You know, you can see we've got a lot of houses here, and they're different types. There's squares, there's rectangles, there's a weird looking curvy one there, there's one that's like a gun, you know, there's all these different types of buildings, a lot. And there's a forest here, there's roads, ooh, there's rivers, there's like a ring road stadium, and there's an airport, obviously. You know, just having a look at the data, you know your possibilities. Now, like I said, I will do a video that goes into more detail about Scenery Processor and allows you to write your own scripts. But for this video, it's basically going to be easy peasy street, okay? So first off, we need to collect this data and feed it into this program, okay? So how do we do that? Well, we go back to OrthoXP P3D. Now, like I said before, this program can also do your, you know, photoreal. It's not great. They load slow. It doesn't have all the seasons unless you install some other software. And in all honesty, it's just not very good. Earth Tiles is better. But we do use this to collect that OpenStreetMap data, okay, or the OSM data that Scenery Processor needs to process into Autogen files. You see? So first things first, go into the dist folder and run OrthoXP P3D, and it'll pop up with this black box, and then eventually you'll get this as well. We go back here. This is the main menu. Don't worry about anything. Just make sure you select Bing, because we used Bing for, you know, our FS Earth tiles. Select zoom level 18. Go into the configuration. Make sure like these values are there as well. Click apply and exit. Pause the video if you need to. Then select the world. Now this is where we're going to find our island. So with the right click of the mouse button, you press and hold, and you can move the map. We can basically, where are we? That's India, that's Indonesia, there's Australia, and our island is here. Double click, left click on the mouse, and it will highlight a tile. Now if I do it, it's, as you can see, like if I was to do New Caledonia, I'd have to go 1, 2, 3, you know, and it wouldn't get all of it. I chose Portavilla because it completely, this tile covers this area. Now this tile covers a large area, as you can imagine, but in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't actually cover that much. Like if we go to Brisbane, like here, I need 2 tiles for Brisbane, you know, but it is a big area. I recommend only working 1 tile at a time. So if you wanted to do Fuji here, which I can't actually get any further over, but if you want to do Fuji, you do 1, 2, 3, 4. Work 1 tile at a time and work your way around. That way, it's not big file sizes. You kind of, you know, go through it a bit by bit so you know where you are, and it's just easier to manage. So yeah, double left click the mouse to highlight the yellow. Make sure that 1, 2, 3, 4, the top 4 items are selected, and the bottom one, build for P3D. That's important. Click the control button and then click click the shift button and then click this, and this basically now puts like the chicken mesh over it to say this is the area we are selecting to do. Okay, go back to the main menu once you've done that, once you've highlighted it, and click on this, you know, Simon Says button here, the Hot Space Queen album, and basically change it to Bing. There's other options here. You could actually choose OpenStreetMap if you want, but we're choosing Bing. Zoom level 13 and click preview. Oh, click ZL18 as well. And it will render the tile that we've just done into this viewpoint, which isn't very big, you know, at the end of the day. But we need to find our island. So I think if we look at it, it's down in the bottom left hand corner. So basically we can scroll down. We know it's on this bit, down and across, and here we are. This is our island. So if you want to zoom out a little bit, so you can like zoom 10 and preview, and or zoom 12 preview, and it's a little bit easier to work with, you know. Where's our island gone? Here it is. Right, so first things first, shift, right? Oh, sorry, control and left mouse button click, and as you can see, we're building tiles. You want to basically cover the entire area that you want to map. Now, what I tend to do so I don't get lost is do the perimeter first. So we go around like this and press and hold the right mouse button click to move the map, and then remember to click control again, and left click on the tiles. If you make a mistake, it's right click to remove a tile, left click to put a tile in. We just move along the shoreline. Don't really need that one. Nothing's there. Move along the shoreline along here. Now this basically is collecting data at a level detail of L18. So we just work our way around now. Right, we want to do that island. Right, fill him in. So I've done the perimeter, so now basically I've just got to go in and do the rest. Now I'm not going to sit here and have you guys watch me click buttons all day, so I'll bring you back when I've done this. Right, so that is that. Now don't forget, as you notice here, there is an airport and a big town here. So if we go into the program, we know that where is it? Down here there is an airport. So if you click L19, you can now go in and select points of interest, places where there's, you know, that there's a density of data, and go in and select a lower level of detail and collect better data. Now I'm not going to do this all over. I'm only don't need that one. I'm only going to do it for the airport area because, and this little town over here. This is just to illustrate for a video. I mean, this isn't like I'm creating this for me. This is just for this video. So, and I think yeah, there was a bit of a town here as well, so we'll get some data there. At the end of the day, you will get, I mean, doing just the orange is probably good enough. But yeah, right. Once you've done that, this island here is done. So save the zone, apply, and exit. You can move out of that. And remember, it's only going to work on this tile, and then zooming in, it's going to work on those individual tiles. Once all this is done, click batch build and it will start collecting the data. So first off, it downloads the OSM data for screen proc. Once the files have been downloaded, and it starts to say creating TIFF files, right? That means it's gotten all your data, your OpenStreetMap data, which is like vector data, land class data. It's got all that done, and now it's starting to build the ortho photos because it thinks you're gonna build, you're wanting ortho photos as well. At the end of the day, we ain't interested in ortho photos. If you are interested in ortho photos and you want this thing to do all of that as well, then just leave it to run. But we don't need this. It's now creating those TIFF files. We can now exit out of that program. It's done. We go in here, and there is a folder in here, and in here, and in here, and there is our data collected. 38 megabytes. Easy peasy. Right? Leave this folder open. You'll need this location. Bring up Screen Proc. Now this is where it starts to get fun. Click the open and click on the default profile, and this is the scripting language now, right? Telling the program exactly what type of data to look for within this data set, processing it into actual Autogen. Now, as you can, this program is pretty clever, and as you can see, it's already said, hey, we've got some problems here, we've got some errors. We need to resolve these problems first before we can actually do anything. You might see that here is a default pathway. Okay, we need to instruct it. This import OGR is basically saying import the information, okay, and then the address follows, which is this OSM data, okay, scene proc OSM data. So highlight the address, Control C to copy it, and then paste it in from G all the way to this screen proc OSM data. Don't go beyond that thing, and just highlight it in. Now it's cleared that error. But there's some more errors. Now these errors here are false positives, okay? These aren't actual errors. I don't think Screen Proc likes scripts. I think it actually wants you to write everything in. So like if I was to go in and I wanted to create, just for instance, if I type add, it should bring up a drop list down of things I can add to it, and then I'd actually write out that code that it requires, and it would work fine. But if you use a script, sometimes it'll error out, and it'll tell you the errors. There's only 3 of them, and they've got red lines here. All you have to do is highlight up to the first entry, which is this star. Click Control X to cut, backspace into it, and start to rewrite it. And as soon as you start to rewrite it, it will come up with what it thinks you're looking for, which is exactly what we're looking for. So you can type the tab key, and it will now fill in. This is what it needs from you, which is what we just cut out. So we paste it back in, Control V, and it's cleared that error. Clever girl. Right, so we go down to the next one, highlight what is the data, Control X to cut it out, backspace into the word, start to type the word out, tab, and then paste over that with Control V. Cleared the other error. Now it's saying failed to find processing step. Now scroll all the way down to the bottom, okay? Now this will be in your file, but this isn't the location to where you want the data to go. So if we go back to OrthoXP folder here, I've created this texture folder and placed it within OrthoXP, okay? This texture file folder can be anywhere. At the end of the day, you could actually put it in to FS Earth Tiles add-on and put it in here if you want, to make it easy for yourself, but I've done it to keep it contained within here. But this file can be anywhere. Click into the file and highlight the address, Control C to copy your address, and then paste it in. Now, as you can see, it hasn't removed the error. This is what I mean. It likes you to copy it in. So now just highlight the entire thing here. Highlight the entire address that you've just done, okay? And X, and then go back into the purple words, G, and then it'll say that's export AGN. Push the tab, and now this is what it's asking for. It's asking for your folder, which is the address there, and what version are you running, P3D or FSX? And we're running, start to type in P, and it'll come up, we want P3D version 4. Click the tab key, enters it in, clears the error, and we're ready to rock and roll. Now, I'm going to do a separate video solely on writing this code out. So I've basically taken the default file and I've added loads more to it. Okay, there is loads here. Okay, this will get you going with Autogen in a basic way. It doesn't give you region specific buildings, it just gives you what most of the world has got. And if we look into the data, we can actually see it's got forests, scrublands, orchids, conservation areas, woods, nature reserves, tree rows, wetlands, parks, golf courses, the basics of what most cities, most towns have got. And it's also got loads of trees. All you have to do is click run. Now it'll start to read the data from those OSM files. It will start to import it in. It will look at the data, it will assign things, it will process, it will do its job, and at the end of the day it will finish and put Autogen files in this folder. Now this was written, this little program, it's finished, this little program was made back in like over 10 years ago when PCs were slow. You really do need a good CPU and a good amount of RAM to run this thing. Now you just seen that it happened in 21 seconds for that island. That's how fast it is to create Autogen. Okay, that's how fast it is. Obviously the larger the area, the longer it takes, the more Autogen you're putting in, the longer it takes. But let's go back and have a look at this data, and I'll enlarge it so you can see it. It says here, if we scroll up to the very top, it's reading the file, you know, from the very top of this folder here, the files that I gave it. It's reading it, all the files it's read. It says it's splitting the features as well, which is for performance reasons, and I won't go into it in this one. It's found 2,772 cells. Let's get down to the good stuff here. Autogen, here we go. So it's found basically, oh, here we go. No, here I passed it. It's found 24,000 items in the first file. It's found just under 2,000 in the second. It's found 810 in the third and 73 in the last one. So it's got basically just under 25,000 objects, buildings and trees. But what is it actually doing for us? It's created 29 of the forest use areas. It's got 31 natural scrublands, 20 areas of orchid. It hasn't found any conservation, so it hasn't created anything. It's found 669 natural woods, so they're trees basically. 460, it hasn't found any natural tree polygons. 13 for the wetland. It hasn't found any golf courses, even though there's one there. It hasn't found any of that. Down in here, it's found 27,000 buildings, 33,000 different type of buildings, 24,000 different type of buildings. It's created all these. So basically, it looks like it's created about 70,000 different types of buildings. That's a lot, to be honest. It's created more stuff. Here we are, created. It's created just under 10,000 of the other types of building. So basically, we've got about 100,000 different pieces of Autogen in here. Okay. Now, this has also given me a good idea of what it hasn't created. I actually put light poles in here. So during the day, you would actually see light poles in the sim, but it actually hasn't created any of that. Even though it found that data, it didn't create it, most likely because it's not on the SDK kit anymore. Anyway, we can exit out that program. Don't save it. Here's your Autogen files. Now, at the end of the day, the file size is like 5.53 megabytes. That's it. Okay? So, all we need to do is go over to New Caledonia. where I've already done it. It's already in here. And also from FS Earth Tiles as well, where it created the scenery and the texture. In the texture folder, you're going to have these area thumbnails. Pop them in the texture folder as well, along with your Autogen files. Now, some people I've heard actually delete any ones with 1 kilobyte. Man, I wouldn't delete any Autogen. You know, all Autogen is good Autogen at the end of the day. I've already done the obviously the processing of the BGL files is here. The texture is here. When it's finished, you don't need the working folder or the files within here. Actually, I want to keep the working folder, sorry. But you can delete the folder within the work folder. Unless you plan on going back and remasking things and touching things up, you don't need this. It was about 118 gig in file size, so delete that. Your resulting files will be in here. I've already moved them over to the location. Here, the scenery folder here, these the areas. It was 22.2 gig in size, so our resulting folder is 22.2. I can delete that. Actually, I'll keep that one just in case. So that's that one now. You don't need to keep the folders here. You can literally cut and paste them. Also, go into Ortho XP, and there will be files created in this folder, that folder, that folder, that folder, and that folder. You don't need them. You can delete them, and they will recover your space. Although I do recommend going into OSM data, and it's up to you, but I've renamed the files that were in here for this area, calling it Portavilla, but in case I want to go back and adjust the data and extract better, more region specific data. They're only like 38 megabytes in size, so I'm going to start collecting and keeping all the OpenStreetMap data so I can go back and refine it in the future. But for all intents and purposes, that's this done now. We can actually shut all this down and head into the sim and go see what it looks like. So we're at 1,000 feet, and as you can see already, it actually looks good at 1,000 feet. It doesn't look pixelated or blurry, but we're gonna head up to like 10,000 feet and see what it looks like. All the Autogen is placed correctly. All the masking for the water is done realistically. I've retained some of the stuff down here. We still have our wave shoreline animations. Sometimes you might go, ooh, that doesn't actually look as good, and you might want to redo it. But you, as long as you haven't deleted your files, you can go back and redo things, no problem. I do find that compared to Orbex Global, what it looked like before, this is more realistic. The airport perimeter, you know, is kept intact. Obviously, if you've got an airport add-on, then you will probably see a bit different, because the airport add-on isn't covered in, you know, photoreal, so you will see a definitive cut around. But this is a default airport, so it blends in perfectly. And there you go. That's basically it. We've now created photoreal for this tiny little island. It's 20 gig in size, but you know, it's fully done, and it looks honestly much better, I think, than what was there before. Like I said, I do plan on having a server somewhere hosted where all of this that I create will be available, and share it with the community, and map as much as possible of P3D, the world, as much as possible. Because I really do think, you know, obviously this profile for scenery processor that I used was just a generic. It didn't have literally half of the items that would be available. You know, there was so much more data that I could have extracted and made this more realistic. But the profile that I used is basically good enough, you know. Yeah, it is what it is. So I'm happy with the results, and I'm going to keep it. I wasn't actually going to keep it. I was actually going to redo it and spend a lot more attention. Obviously, the resulting masking of the water will sort of depend on how much time and effort you put in, how much detail you go into, but you can get really creative, actually. And there are actual colors you can use that retain the photoreal texture, but still place the water on top. And in the future, I might show that, but there is a color chart that is available. If we go into the folder where I keep it, I'll show you the color chart. FS Earth Tiles. This is the color chart here. If you basically set your color according to this chart, you can actually, you know, mask in or out Autogen, night lights, photoreal water, transitions, terraflora, stuff like that. But the way I've showed you to do it is a quick and easy, dirty way to get it done, you know, with pleasing results at the end of the day. Obviously, we're in the spring texture, don't forget. There are 4 seasons. Each texturing down below will look slightly different. So when it gets to summer, it'll probably be more green. When we get to winter, you know, it'll probably be different. It's because we're in the southern hemisphere. So you can see it's retained quite a lot of that shore from the texture. Hard edges here can be removed to blend it more in just by the opacity slider set to like 5%, and then you can go over and blend this in. But in all honesty, I'm happy enough with it. It's good enough, really. And yeah, basically it's free at the end of the day. Free True Earth is what I've just created, and the quality of the ortho here is actually in higher quality than True Earth and higher than any photoreal available. And in version 6, these flat trees here look even more 3D because the SDK kit, the way that sim is set up, they've really improved anti-aliasing and the lighting and the rendering of textures, and textures look even better in version 6. So this island in version 6 would look amazing, even more so than version 5. But I didn't use the SDK kit for version 6, so the colors might look a bit weird. If I did, then it would be future-proofed, and once P3D V6 gets to 6.3, I will start using the SDK kit as it starts to slow down in its development, and I can then create photoreal sceneries specifically for version 6. But I'm happy with the results. If anybody has any questions for anything, please don't hesitate. Drop comments and questions in the comments below. But that basically is it. Now, in the next video, I'm going to show you a bit more in-depth detail about scenery proc, how you can actually write your own specific code, what options are available to you, and a walkthrough tutorial of what every bit of line of code actually means, because it's a very good program that the person's created, and it is very powerful in, like, all these trees aren't specific to this region, but they are available in the data, so I could actually state it, you know, in the data, and it would really give this island here a look of what it should look like in terms of the fauna and the building types that are specific to this region. But the generic profile that I did, you know, is basically good enough, you know, to give me a result. And a generic profile that can be used anywhere in the world at the end of the day. So, anyway, thank you so much for watching this series. Don't forget, I give away €50 of FLIGHTSIM vouchers from Sim Market for FLIGHTSIM add-ons. All you have to do to win with a chance to win is subscribe to my channel, leave a comment down below in any P3D video, and at the end of every single month, like the last 3 or 4 days, I go live with a vlog on YouTube and announce the giveaway winner. Thank you so much, take care, and if you have any suggestions for any videos you need me to make, just let me know in my Discord or in the comments channel, in the comments section below. Take care, guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.